Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg died Friday night at the beginning of the Jewish New Year, Rosh Hashanah. She was known by many of us as a bulwark of integrity and a force for justice. And we are at the beginning of a world without her. Last night, a number of us joined in a vigil to share our thoughts about Justice Ginsburg and about what her loss means to us and to this country. We talked about her character, her omnidirectional nature, as Susan Hotchkiss put it, her capacity to speak her truth in love and dialogue. And we talked about her feisty defense of human rights, especially for those persistently considered less than human by those in power. Adrian, at one point, was talking about the young people who have great values and are powerful and determined and learning. What a difference Justice Ginsburg has made in their lives, perhaps without them even knowing it. We talked about Ginsburg's capacity for persuasion. Lois quoted some of her own words, Ginsburg's own words. Fight for the things that you care about, but do it in a way that will lead others to join you. Isn't this the complete antithesis to the cancel culture that permeates our society and our politics today? It won't be surprising to many of you that Justice Ginsburg was Jewish. And I want to talk about a tradition around the new year, around Rosh Hashanah today, because there is a fundamental notion in Judaism that makes a no-nonsense and gracious attitude toward people you're debating with possible. And I like to think that that may have had something to do with the gifts that she offered us. The first precept is that being human is to be imperfect. But nevertheless, within each of us, there is a kernel of goodness. But sometimes we have to look deep within us to rediscover our better natures. And it is by that self-examination and the actions that we take afterwards that we reconnect with who we were intended to be. Now, of course, this idea of that kernel of goodness inside of us and the idea of deep introspection to find it, that's not unique to Judaism. The story goes that during his trial, Socrates said, "An unexamined life is not worth living." It's this idea that it's not a sign of weakness, but a sign of health and strength and integrity to hold up our choices, to hold up our motives, to hold up even our core beliefs against the light of our values, how we want to be in the world, and to see if they match up. It's what a good and imperfect person asks of themselves. And this is the tradition of Rosh Hashanah, to ask these questions of ourselves. Do I do harm? Why? And can I make things right? So at this time of year, Jewish people around the world begin the new year with a time of celebration, yes, but also with self-reflection. It is 10 days between Rosh Hashanah, the beginning of the new year, and Yom Kippur, the Day of Atonement. During these 10 days, Jewish people and God are looking at how they have made amends for the things that they have done wrong in the past year. And if they can honestly make amends during those 10 days, then their name is inscribed in the book of life, and they can look forward to a blessed and sweet year ahead of them. They greet one another with the words, Lashana Tova Tikatevu Vetechatemu. May your name be inscribed in the book of life, and let this be the beginning of a good year. Now, getting their names inscribed in the book of life is not a matter of luck, but a matter of accountability. Accountability to themselves, to each other, and to God. And this is the fearless inventory that I was talking about in the title of my sermon today. Because I think it's a worthwhile practice to look back over the year and reflect on one's thoughts and actions and try the best that we can to make amends. So people of the Jewish faith and people of perhaps any faith, they can ask, looking back this past year, have I hurt anyone by intent or neglect, or by broken promises, or by accident? You see, it's not enough to experience remorse or to pray to God for mercy. Jewish people, and we as well, need to actively engage with others to make things right. In this context, making amends with those that they have hurt can lead to making amends with God. You know, it makes sense to me, a Unitarian with a Jewish background. Chaim's words, God is the unfathomable wonder at our core, the divine spark, the still small voice, the intrinsic worth of every being. It makes sense that if there is something that all beings share that is precious, that we need to respond to people as if that were the truth. The thing that connects us with everything, the interdependent web of being. If things are true, then it makes sense that people treat one another as they would be treated, as if both have the power to have an impact on the other, and the power to forgive, and the power to receive forgiveness. It reflects an understanding that if we have violated that implicit promise to do no harm, known or unknown, that we are obliged to try to make it right. Imagine if every justice on the Supreme Court practiced the same. Imagine if every legislator practiced the same. Imagine if every leader of this country practiced the same. Preparing oneself to make amends to those we have or may have hurt. How often do we look into ourselves with this deep introspection? For most of us, I know it is hard because we want to believe that we are good people. The Hasidic prayer said, what I fear is within me, and within me too is what I seek. I'm bringing this up this morning because this wonderful congregation is going to be invited to do this work as part of our work for racial justice. And I think it's going to help to think of ourselves as having the core of goodness inside of us, despite growing up in a culture that hides that goodness from us, a culture that's built on the idea that some human beings are less than human and do not deserve to be treated as equals and protected from harm. Instead, they are to be considered threats to the quality of our lives and our basic beliefs. I know it's hard to see this, but we have all grown up in this culture, or we have been sidelined by it. And I think by accepting this practice of self-examination, asking simply, looking back in the past year, have I hurt anyone by intent or neglect, or by broken promises, or by accident? We can make a difference in ourselves. Ask these questions as well, without the trappings of culture that says, oh, it's all right, they don't deserve respect, or it's just the way it is. Ask these questions as well of our systems and our laws, the way that Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg did. She challenged those laws. We are beginning a year and a world without her. We face this world without our tireless advocate for civil rights, for gender rights, for women's rights, for immigrant rights, for the opportunity to do the right thing. We let her carry the burden of insisting time and time again that this country live out its promises. That is what the law is. Our laws are our promises to the people. Our laws are the expression of our best intentions as a nation to those living who need our protection in order to survive and to thrive. When our laws are conceived or circumvented by ancient fears and modern greed, they fail to protect the people they serve. And I don't care whether it's out of expediency or tribalism. My faith tells me this is wrong, and that it is our responsibility as a people of faith to try to do something about it. We let Justice Ginsburg bear this burden for decades, and now we can no longer. It is up to us to take up her responsibilities and honor her memory. It is up to us to hold ourselves and our leaders accountable for equity and compassion in all things. It is up to us to act on the maxim expressed by Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King, justice denied anywhere diminishes justice everywhere. We are beginning the rest of the year, the rest of our lives, with another chance to get things right. We are beginning to push back against all that hides our goodness from us and robs the world of kindness and justice. Alan and I were talking last night, and he steered me to a quote from Albert Camus. In the midst of winter, I found there was within me an invincible summer, and that makes me happy. For it says that no matter how hard the world pushes against me, within me there is something stronger, something better, pushing right back. So let's begin the year. Let's face ourselves and each other, and let's face the world together and push back. May it be so.